got a new Gamera show. What the fuck? It's the first Gamera thing since I don't know, the 90s. I don't remember when
Gamera the Brave. Yeah,
did Brave come out? Was that still in the 90s or was it 2000s? Yeah, okay,
it's 2000.
So this is the first Gamera thing we've gotten in a while, done by the same guys, the same group who did the Godzilla anime trilogy. For better or worse, I compared it to that a lot while I was watching it.
Yeah,
but also I really like the anime trilogy. So
yeah,
but we're gonna get into this, man. Yeah. We watched it I watched half of it today. Jay, what did you think, man? How do you want to do? Do you want to go into the categories or talk about it that way?
I want to do something a little different today. Not that we'll do this for everything that's not our style, but on this one I thought it's so crazy that it has been 17 years or so since we've got a Gamera movie, like our Gamera property, if anything. Like, let's really dive into it. And also, I think people are very vocal about this out there in the community, positively, negative, whatever it might be. So I think it's kind of because it's just so neat that like there is another Gamera one. And so I thought let's break it down, kind of the different aspects of this, because with an anime, like I think of like Singular Point, I think of Skull Island when we reviewed it, or Ultraman when we talked about it. It's like, I like this, but I didn't like this. I like this, I didn't like this. So let's go and break it down into these little components and let's talk about each one, and then kind of give our overall grade. So these are the categories that I picked that I thought would kind of capture most of it. Was the visuals, the animation, like the style, just the overall look and feel of it, the kaiju design, which probably talk the most about because it's the most important to us, the kaiju action, the music, the score, the intro, all that good stuff, the characters, the human characters in this case, and then the overall story and plot, and then we can kind of give our overall grade. So those I thought were the main components that, you know, you can do really well in one and poor in the other. That's allowed, but I thought that would kind of capture everything.
Yeah, cool. And I don't know, we didn't really talk. You didn't tell me how to rank it. You just said rank them. So I gave them all like a 1 through 10 number, and we'll just go from there, I guess.
You could have done that. You can do letter grades. You can do gold stars.
Well, I did. Whatever. Okay, so for visuals and kaiju design, I'm going to do numbers. I'm going to do stars for music and score, and then we'll do letters for story.
Yeah. And then we'll do 1 to 100 for one, and thumbs up, thumbs down. It'll be amazing. So I want to start with the visuals and animations, and the images have nothing to do with, like, you don't have to talk about these images. I was just putting some ambiance on there of some of the kind of reminding people what this thing looked like. But the animation and visuals, I know, has been probably the one thing that's been talked about the most by people and kind of the most debate. So I was curious, what did you think overall of just visually Gamera Rebirth?
So I gave it out of 10. I gave it a 7. Okay. And I kind of went up and down with it because I do think it looks fine. There are times, and I'm going to use this. I'm actually going to use the Scouse picture as an example. Okay. That looks like a computer screensaver from, like, that doesn't look great.
I thought it was in Doom. I thought it was in the game.
And it kind of goes back and forth for me. There are times where it doesn't look great. There are times when I'm like, oh, this is perfectly fine. If I was picking, if I had my choice, I would have loved this show to be in the Singular Point style animation. I think Singular Point looks awesome. I think this is pretty much exactly what they did for the Godzilla anime trilogy. Mm-hmm. And I think it works better in the Godzilla anime trilogy. And I don't know if it's because the creatures are a little more slow moving in that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but the vibe feels better in the Godzilla anime than this.
Yes.
But I don't hate it. I don't think anything's ugly. You know, there was only a couple times where I'm like, that looks a little cheap. But, like, I'm not, like, I wasn't too picky over it. And most of the time it still looked pretty good. So, that's where I landed.
Yeah, so I was right there with you. I was going back and forth. I ended up, because you gave it a 7, so I'm going to give it a B. A B. And I went back from a C and a B because, like, everything you said, I agree 100% with. Like, I really do. Like, I think, like, there's the screensaver, baby Gauss, Gauss, whatever he is. But then overall, though, like, I thought the animation, like, was overall okay. It didn't take, at no point other than the baby Gauss did it take me out of the out of the thing. And I'm not a anime person. It's not what I gravitate to, so I don't have a big of opinion on it.
Sure.
That's never going to be the main. If I weighted each of these categories, this would probably be right at the bottom because at the end of the day, as long as I could tell kind of what's going on. But I agree. I think it did look better in the anime trilogy. But I also, I think back to growing up, it's like we view the quality of special effects in Toho here and in Daiei. I know it's Kadokawa now, but like Daiei here. So like the fact that it wasn't as clean as that one did not bother me as well. Cause I'm like, yeah, it's a Gamera. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
But overall, I thought there were some really cool visuals and shots, and some of the stuff I thought was excellent, and it did not take me out of it. So I had a hard time giving it anything lower than a B, but it would be a B minus. It would be an 80, like an 80 proper.
Yeah. An 80. Yeah. There you go.
Cool. But yeah, it was good stuff. But okay. So next on, this is the fun one. So Kaiju design. I mean, you had the 5 Kaiju, you had Gamera, all designs of various levels of kind of, well, almost all of them are pretty radical redesigns other than Gamera. Kind of. Yeah, and Gauss and Gamera. Yeah. So I figured on this one, talk to me about the ones, if you liked them, but also like which ones you liked the best, which ones you didn't care for, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, I gave Kaiju design a 9. 9 out of 10. And I mean, listen, I do like watching it. The fact that they have, Zigra, I've always really loved Zigra.
Me too.
He's silly, and Virus the same. Like I love those two, and I really love their silly old, design. I love them, but I know you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Something that doesn't work in something like this. So for this kind of thing that has more of a Heisei feel to it, I think the designs are all perfect, except I hate S-Gauss.
Yep.
And you know what? Yep. I think I hate Gauss, period. That was one of the things, the only thing, like, I was super into the show until we get to the second to last episode. I'm sorry I'm getting into the story a little bit.
No, that's right. Oh, yeah.
We get into the second to last episode. They're building Virus up to be like, I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna be the big bad of the show,
and not the one I was expecting, right?
And I was so into that. He shows up, and I'm like, he's terrifying. He still looks like Virus, and I'm like, he's gonna fucking fly to space right now. I was like, I'm so into this.
Spinning, even the spinning style,
Dead all of a sudden out of nowhere, like too easily. I think Gamera took him out. And then the final episode, I was like, what are they doing here? And it was like, oh, we're just doing Gauss again. I'm tired of Gauss. I don't think I'm not intrigued or interested in seeing Gauss ever again. I think Gauss is the most unoriginal design of any of the Kaiju. It's just Rodan,
Yeah.
And I just don't care for it. And I know they tried to make it like a super Gauss at the end, but I was like, any of the other Kaiju were better looking, scarier, and feel like more formidable foes than the Gauss.
For a moment, I thought when Virus was killed so easily, and I knew like there has to be something else. I was like, oh yeah, they didn't announce there's one other Showa era. Is Barugon going to come out? Is there going to be a redesign Barugon? Like I thought that was going to happen, and no, you just get a slower zombie looking 4-eye Gauss.
That worked against the show. The last episode worked against the show for me, except I do love the design of Baby Gamera. Baby Gamera in the very end, I was like, that is the best thing I've ever seen. Give me toys of that. I hope it exists. But otherwise, all the Kaiju look great. I loved all the Kaiju. Dude, fucking Giron was like, I was like, what the fuck is he do? They're all badass.
Yep.
The only other thing I will say that kind of kicks into story a little bit is that they all are kind of defeated pretty easily by Gamera.
Yeah.
And Gamera defeats a couple of them in the exact same way, splits them in half. And then there's also a thing that happens. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, that's fine. It's totally fine.
There's also a thing that happens where at least 4 episodes in a row, Gamera saves a kid by shooting a fireball at a Kaiju from off screen right in the nick of time. It happens 4 times.
Yeah.
All right, those are my nitpicks. Kaiju
No-
design 9. What did you think of the Kaiju designs?
So we're pretty close again. I gave it an A.
Hey! I think a 9 is probably an A, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. So everything you said was great. I agree with it. The gear on design, not only the functionality of him like whipping himself around and kind of that creates it to use the knife head effectively.
His mouth looks so cool when he opens his mouth. I loved it.
And they found a way to modernize the shurikens instead of like just the throwing stars coming out of his head, like that they come down as like spine, almost like
bone.
Yeah, so cool. I thought that was awesome. I think Viros was a great design. I think Jiger was an amazing design.
Yeah,
I liked the Gamera design, and it grew on me as it went along. Gauss to me was a neutral. It was just kind of like, okay,
it's Gauss.
I didn't love the Zigra design. I didn't hate it. I thought like I wasn't like looking for it to be like the old one. I know it, to your point, you can't do that without like kind of taking yourself out of the series. There's something that it just seemed like it was like water Gauss, it was underwater Gauss.
I wish he was a little more shark-like.
Maybe I wanted some more sharp points. I wanted some more like kind of, I don't know. We don't need xylophones or anything like that, but I just it was fine. It wasn't bad. This is not saying it was bad. It just was okay. The worst one to me, I line with you 100%, was S-Gauss. I just thought it was just kind of but everything else was really, really good. Jiger was awesome. I thought the movements that she had and everything were awesome. And like I felt almost like that was the hardest battle of Gamera was Jiger. And the funny thing is, like, in the Showa series, it's the hardest battle too, like the one that probably gives Gamera the most trouble. So I thought that was kind of cool, but everyone was they were on point with Kaiju design. I absolutely loved it.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is kind of taking that, and let's talk about every time we look at Kaiju movies, we watch Kaiju movies, you have the folks that are just, it's all about the Kaiju battles, the Kaiju action, whether it's against military or against other Kaiju or whatever. So what did you think of how they portrayed the fights, the battles, all the Kaiju action in this anime?
So as far as the number goes, I gave this an 8.
Oh, nice.
I thought it was pretty good. There's lots of it. There are a couple episodes where I did find myself being like, all right, let's get on to the Gamera. You know what I mean? There were just a couple where I was like, I don't care about these kids anymore. Show me Gamera. I want to see Gamera. I would have given it a higher number if some of the battles didn't feel exactly the same. I was just saying, Gamera pulls out the same tricks. And I know it's hard whenever you're doing 5 episodes or 5 different kaiju. Gamera only has so many tricks. Yeah. But he's doing the same thing. He's killing these villains in the exact same way. I think he could have had a way better battle with Virus, especially how cool they made Virus in this version. Yeah. And they just kill him really quickly. So I'm giving it an 8 for that. But whenever they're battling, I thought it was all great. It was all really fun stuff. I could watch more of it, and I hope I do get to watch more of it.
Yeah. So I'm very close to you. And the biggest takeaway for me, which I didn't factor into the rating, was like I wanted more of it. Mine was just like of what we got. How did I like it? And what we got, I thought was a B.
Yeah.
And I think the highlight.
We think the same on everything.
Oh, for now. Let's just say, I have a feeling we might have a great schism and maybe ruin the podcast here in a second. The podcast partnership. Okay. No, but I thought the highlights were the Giron battles, just because the unique way that he can fight.
Giron was great.
And the Jiger battles are my favorite too. Yeah. But you're right. Viros was a disappointment because they built him up for so long, and it was almost the weakest of the battles, and he can do so much really cool stuff. And I think Zigra was kind of a weak battle. So what we got, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall, even the bad ones were fine and they were cool. But the Giron, I think, was like the star of the show, just like him whipping his body around and flipping up and using his giant knife head. We haven't seen a kaiju battle like that. Yeah, and I thought it was just. I was like, this is new. This is
he seemed the most dangerous to me.
Yeah,
like the way he's so spastically jumping around and just. That was the only time I was watching it where I was like, oh, this is scary, because like usually with kaiju, and when you're watching these movies or shows, usually the kaiju's way over there, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, but he's like, now I'm over here, now I'm jumping,
Yep.
and I'm here, and it was just like, oh my god, what is he
Yep.
doing? And he's like,
He
he's also like targeting people, like
Yes.
specific little people, and I'm like, the kaiju don't usually do that. So
No.
yeah, he was great.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. So very happy to see the action. Like I said, would love more of it. So maybe they just need to do like a fighting game or something. Okay, so this one I'm going to lean a little bit on you on this one. But I know a lot of people have been chatting about the score and the music, both the score, but also like the soundtrack and stuff as well. From the intro theme that we got to the change in music when Gamera would approach for the big battle and everything in between. So as a music guy, as somebody that knows music, that plays music, that has musical theater in their blood, what do you think overall of the music in the series?
Oh, this got my lowest score.
Oh, okay.
I gave it a 5, just because like there was nothing bad about the music, but there were no times where I particularly were like, whoa, that is a cool. It just sounded pretty generic to me.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're talking about kaiju and you're watching like Godzilla movies where, you know, Godzilla and Mothra and they all have, like all these creatures have their own themes and they're very, very distinct. Yeah. And like they've been putting the same Godzilla theme in movies for 45 years and like,
and we still love it.
It's amazing. And it's when you hear it, it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But all of this just felt like generic anime kind of music to me. And the opening theme, I couldn't even tell you what it sounds like, dude, because I watched it on the first episode.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was too long and it showed you too much of the show in it.
Oh, yeah.
So I never watched it again. I was like, whoa. Why is this showing so many battles in it? I skipped it after that every time. So I never watched the intro again. And you know, I gave it a 5, but it's not bad. It's just there was none of it stood out to me.
Yeah. So I think we're close because 5 out of 10, that's a 50. I gave it a D. And it was for almost the exact same reason. This is setting up perfectly for when we have our great schism. I thought the intro theme was like generic anime. It wasn't bad. It was too long. You're right. Like I kind of fast forwarded, and I kind of chuckled, and I wasn't supposed to. I laughed when it would turn into like some like, you know, like hard rock music when Gamera would come in, and every time like I just thought it was like what like it was almost like pro wrestling-y. Not that it was bad, but like as they're trying, you know, with the story and everything to be serious and then this is important. And then you get that. It just was kind of like, it took me out of it for a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, there was nothing here that I was like, oh, this is great. But there was nothing that was like, I'm not going to watch it. And this would be at the bottom of my probably ranking system as far as like where I would weight these. It would be this and probably the animation style like matter the least to me. Music for me is like, it's critical. And when it's really good, it can take something from great to like timeless. This didn't like hurt it. It just wasn't like, it didn't help it either.
It just seemed like it was maybe far down on their list as well. They were just like, okay, we also need some music in here.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. So that gets us into the final two, which would be this would be the characters. And obviously in this one, it's more the human characters. So I was curious your overall thoughts on how they portrayed these folks, what you thought of these characters and their development over the 6 episodes or however many episodes it was.
I gave it a 6 for the characters. And I mean, there were a couple times where I was bored with the human characters and I was ready to jump into the kaiju action. Also, like out of the like 4 I think you could have made it 2 kids instead of 4 and gotten the exact same fucking thing. I was like, I don't even know which kid's which at this point. What's their names? I don't fucking know. I don't think you needed them all. I did like, though, Gamera has always kind of had a kid protagonist. And I like that they kept that, but then still kept the story a little more adult, a little more violent. They kept saying fuck. There's like
kids swear.
It felt a little more. It didn't feel like you're watching a kids movie or something.
No.
all of the other secondary characters, I just didn't really. I don't know. Whatever, they were fine. Like some of them were interesting. The guy in the middle here annoyed me most of the time. Yeah, I did like how you kind of think the woman here is
Emiko,
like maybe a good guy for a bit, and then she turns out not to be. But yeah, overall the characters, like I said, dude, I watched it today. I couldn't tell you anybody's name. You know what I mean? Like it was fine, but I just wasn't. It was good for a cartoon. I don't know. I didn't find myself caring about any of their fates that much. When the one kid sacrificed himself, I was just like, all right, cool. Let me see Gamera though.
Yeah. So I went ahead and I gave it a C. I actually it's hard because this bleeds into story and stuff as well. But of the kids, I thought they set up the main kid, Boko. I thought they set him up really well. But I didn't know whether I was supposed to like connect with him and feel, like he was kind of be the main protagonist, or it was supposed to be Joe, the kid that sacrifices himself, right? I thought like
I felt like that a couple times for all three of the main kids, other than the kid who's the bully at the beginning and then Brody, friend. Other than him, there were times where I'm like, which one of these kids is the main kid?
That was a hard part for me. Yeah. And so in the third one, Junichi, the whole we think she's a he until she's a she. I mean, they did that gimmick, I know, on lots of animes, and I mean, I was watching Voltron Legendary Defender not too long ago, and they do the same thing. But yeah, that kind of doesn't go anywhere. But once again, that's more story. It's just like, okay, neat. And then it's like, well, does Brody now like her? But that doesn't, ever really
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I thought to me, the characters, just on a vacuum, looking at them, their kind of character sheet, writing them up, fine. It's fine. You can work with that. I don't think the story does anything to help them. But I just thought you have generic military dad whose son's trying to plead. It was a little bit of central casting, but I think the biggest issue for me was of the kids. It's a Gamera film. It's okay that they cuss. It's okay that it's violent. I just need to know which one I need to latch onto. Yeah, because that's important in a Gamera film. Right. And I thought that connectivity was lost. And so overall, the characters is it was. I think there was a lot more missed than there could have been. If it was tweaked a little bit from a story perspective.
That's what I'm saying. It could have just been two kids. It could have been one kid, and you still could have done the same story. So, yeah. Oh,
that leads us into the final thing. Overall, the story, the narrative, the plot, the humans, the kaiju, the scene, the everything, the global stakes, the macro stakes, the micro stakes, everything in between. What do you think of the anime story overall?
All right, so I also gave it a 6. I don't think it's a bad story. I don't think there's anything There were a couple times, once you find out what the plot is, the main where all these monsters are coming from, it felt pretty generic for a kaiju film. Oh, there's another civilization that wants to take over Earth with monsters. We've seen that a million times, but I don't really count that against it because that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be crazy. It is a weird plot when they're like, oh, well, some of the kids are special, and if a monster eats a special kid, then it can do that. And that I think I was like, you're trying to overcomplicate it. Listen, Singular Point is one of the craziest, most complicated, but best plots in any kaiju. It's great. I think Singular Point is amazing. It gets a little confusing in here, and I think if they could have streamlined it and just went super generic with, oh, it's a civilization that is bringing these monsters back to take over the world, they could have left it at that. And even though that's super simple and it's been used, that's all New Gamera needs. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.
So I thought we'd have a bigger difference. We actually don't. I thought this was. I thought you were gonna be initially. I thought you were gonna be in the B range, and I was gonna be down here. But I gave it a D. Yeah. And here's why. Everything that you said, I agree with.
Yeah.
I think that I think there's a lot of the little things that they never progress on. They never explain it fully. One being like the kaiju eat the kids, and there's a special kid that's a code holder or whatever.
Yeah.
What does any of that mean? Why?
What does it
why
mean?
Is
yeah.
Why do these kids get that? I think that like when you have a basis for that's kind of the core to the global of how all this kind of stuff works, and we don't understand it. It's like I think of like, you know, fantasy films when like you don't have the rules around like the magic, like how do you know what can and can't happen? Like I just felt like very confused on that, and that would not make it a D on its own. Like that's just like okay, like that might take it from an A to a B, right, or a B to a C. The reason and this is where I disagree with a lot of people out there, and the reason that like this, I think the story lends itself to needing to be redone totally, is I get, and the Heisei Gamera thing might have spoiled us to where like we want to see kaiju films that are quote unquote realistic, that have the right amount of violence, because kaiju films should have violence. There's these giant beasts that are destroying huge cities and killing lots of people and everything. I get that. But I felt this series, and this is probably a quote used against me a million times on future things, but I think that they turned the violence and I don't want to say gore because there wasn't more, but like the violence and the eating children and all that stuff as a gimmick. I think the story wasn't good enough to support. I didn't feel like if there would have been one person eaten or one anything, and they just showed the kind of the generic kaiju stuff where it's just like you see the buildings destroyed, but you don't see the people die, you know, that type of thing. I don't think it would have lessened this or made it any better or worse. I really feel like it wasn't earned. It was like, we're going to have kaiju that need to eat children. Why? We don't need to explain it, just because we have people that love violence and they love kaiju, and we're going to give them that. Whereas like the Heisei films and things that also do this, I feel like it earns it and it's like worthy of it, and the story needs it because it's whatever. This one I felt like it was just a gimmick. It was just like, we're going to throw some violence in here and whatever. And I just didn't feel the story was good enough to support it. And like I said, it goes back to the whole concept is they eat children, but why? Like why? And if you're going to do something that drastic and that different from other kaiju films, like at least explain it to me so I know why I should be doing that, and have a kid that like I care that he does. I don't want him to get eaten. Like these kids is like I have no connection to him. Like get eaten, I don't care. You know. And so like I just felt like there's so much good in this. The kaiju designs, everything. There's so much that this could have been really good, and I just think that somebody slept on the job when it came to the story piece, and I think it needed a little bit more to support the violence in the film, because it was well done visually, and the story, like having children that are special code holders and the kaiju need to eat the children, sure, that can work. It just felt like they just added that in there to be like, hey, we're going to be extra cool and realistic and violent and have this thing, and like no reason. So that's why I gave it a D, and it really made me sad. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. And here's a couple questions that I don't know if maybe I missed some things or if it was just unexplained. But so do they ever really explain, was Gamera originally one of the monsters that they brought and he just happened to be a good guy? What did they explain?
Yeah, it was
why he's a good guy and not
when they went back, when like they touched the the Aurelium or whatever, you know, they went back and they saw like there was the one of like it was a child or somebody like climbing the hill and like reaching out and saying, save us, help us, Gamera, or whatever. So I don't know if they went into many details, but yeah, it kind of Gamera broke off from the other kaiju. But like once again, I don't know. And I could have missed it too, because it was been a couple days since I've watched it.
But then they also like when Gamera's fighting that last Gauss, it like injects Gamera, and they're like, oh, we injected Gamera with the virus. And I'm like, what virus? What are you talking about? And then he becomes bad for 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then why can't
he just shakes his head and he's not bad anymore? It would have been a more interesting show to me if the last episode starts, you have no more kaiju, get rid of the Gauss, and let the whole last episode be about Gamera. Gamera's a bad guy in the last episode.
That'd be really cool.
Kids have to use there's the one kid who has the kind of the connection with Gamera. Whenever Gamera's arm cuts off, he does the thing
because he has because he has the code. Yeah,
that's like a trope. You know, you're like you were just saying. There's always one kid who kind of like let the last episode be about how that kid has to figure out how to, you know,
that'd be amazing.
Make Gamera a good guy again, and that's it.
Please
you don't have to have another kaiju. Just let the last episode be Gamera as a bad. We've never seen Gamera as a bad Gamera, really. Like a little bit, but not enough. That would have been a great ending. Cool.
Yeah, I think that would have been way better. And they should definitely hire you to do that. That should have been the final episode. But once again, I want to be like clear, like none of the things that happened like by themselves are bad. I just like they just felt kind of thrown in.
Yeah,
like all of the stuff could have worked, and that's why like I think there's like this needed to be like 12 episodes, or it needed to be like maybe even like a little shorter, but and really focus on like less of the elements. Yeah,
but there's like 3 episodes before they start telling you what the deal is. They could have started off immediately. Like when there's only 6 episodes, you got to start getting into the story right away. I think it's not until maybe the end of the 3rd episode that they start giving you a little bit of an explanation to what's happening and why there's monsters at all.
You know what it needed? It needed to take a cue from Skull Island, the anime, and have a really good flashback episode, like one that's back there, like to explain a little bit more, you know, because that would have been also very cool to kind of see the origins and this stuff. But yeah, like I said, I just felt like they just kind of like the last episode or 2 episodes, they just threw a lot of stuff out there, and I was like, okay, now she's bad right away, and here's this and that, and like, what the hell is going on? I did like the scene where the Foundation, like the folks that are kind of stuck on the moon, they get like destroyed, like that one. Their wine that was great. But overall, like I just thought, like the story just it was the weakest part of the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, so overall, great. So where do you like factoring all that stuff in there? What do you give it? And then of course I wanted to do this. I thought this would be fun. Where do you rate it between like kind of the bigger anime kaiju Tokusatsu animes that have come out recently? Start the trilogy. We have Ultraman. I know you only watched season 1. That's the best season. So like, let's watch that one. Singular Point, and then Skull Island, which we recently watched. You know,
if I'm giving it an overall grade, I'm probably giving it like a 7. You know what I mean? Like it was fine. It was really fun. I'm really happy it exists. A lot of good stuff in there, but it's not a singular point. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I had to fit it somewhere, God, if I had to rank all 5 of these, listen, Singular Point's number 1. I'm probably putting the Godzilla anime trilogy as number 2. I'd maybe put Gamera under that, and then Skull Island and then Skull Island.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I have it as a C overall, with some really high highs, kaiju design. I think that it's a C, but it had elements that could have made it an A. Like it really did. Like I think there was just things, and you can say that about a lot of things. With you, I agree with you. Singular Point's number 1 with a bullet. Big gap between the next one. I would probably say season 1 of Ultraman would be number 2 for me. Then I would have to rewatch some of the Godzilla trilogy. My gut tells me Godzilla trilogy, then Gamera and Skull Island. And with Skull Island being the bottom for sure, but still that one's just, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
but
fine.
I would say Skull Island, if it was just the flashback episode, would be up at the top.
Yeah.
Right under Singular Point. It had the best single episode.
Skull Island was perfectly fine. It was fun. It's just that nothing. There's nothing groundbreaking in it. There's nothing.
Gamera's definitely better than Skull Island.
Yeah.
I would have to debate between Gamera and the Godzilla trilogy. That second one I really just didn't like, but I have to rewatch it. It's been a while. So I'll probably put Godzilla ahead of it now just because I do think it was better than Gamera, but it would be in that space. I really liked Ultraman season 1, but even that's like in that grouping, that's probably one of those, like it's a cluster, with Singular Point definitely being 1, Skull Island definitely being number 5, and the other 3 kind of battling it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're all good. I'm glad they all exist. And they're super fun.
I'm really happy that there's like a kaiju animated like universe. Now, I mean, I know they're not all in the same universe, but we have 5 different, animated kaiju things, and that's great.
And I'm not even including, because I didn't watch it, like the Pacific Rim, the Black, that animated or anime.
Right.
I know that's
I forgot that existed.
Yeah. And so I know
Holy
that's good. And there's going to be other ones I know coming out. But I do hope, and here's my kind of like major takeaways, like overall, this has been received very positively.
Yeah.
People like it. I hope it does great numbers, because I would love to see Gamera come back with a live action film.
Yeah,
I really hope
too.
this is
Me
a
too.
test for it. And if we need to rewatch this 75 times to get that to happen, I will.
Yeah.
I'm totally good with that. But that was my takeaway. Like, I just hope this is good enough and gets enough eyeballs and enough pub that we get a live action one.
Yeah, and I want a physical media box set of all of these Japanese kaiju shows.
I know.
I'm so annoyed that I don't have any of these in physical media. It bothers me, Jay.
Yeah.
I look at my DVD shelf. I have a whole shelf that's Godzilla, and it's everything except for the Netflix stuff, and it just is annoying.
You would think that would be an easy way for them to make money, like, because you would think that. I mean, I don't know the dollars.
It's Netflix. Well, it's a Netflix thing. Netflix doesn't. Nothing that's an original Netflix show has physical media. It just doesn't. It doesn't happen. They don't do it. They want you to have Netflix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense for them. It doesn't make sense for me. But that's. Oh man, that's crazy. But overall, yeah. Hey, we have a Gamera anime.
Yeah. I'm glad, dude. I always it's weird because Gamera kind of came out of nowhere, and it's just like I said this earlier, it's an exciting time for us. It's an exciting time for Kaiju. Gamera, Ultraman still go. There's still Ultraman stuff all the time.
Always.
Like
Kamen Rider. Have you watched it yet?
Nah, dude.
Boo! Are you just worried that you're gonna love it so much?
That's like, I know, man. I got to get on it.
Maybe that's the next Jake and Jess date night. You sit down and you watch Kamen Rider, and then you guys go out and buy lots of cool Shin Kamen Rider or Kamen Rider toys.
About. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want to buy any more toys.
I'm gonna start. Hey, on the next one, I'm gonna have the days since Jake, or days that have lapsed since Jake has watched Shin Kamen Rider, or until he watches it, since like the release date, and we'll have a counter at the bottom until you finally watch it. But yes,
cool, man. Listen, you got anything else?
I don't. Welcome back. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Thanks, dude. Well, I'm excited. We're gonna get out of here, and hopefully in 2 weeks I'll have watched Shin Kamen Rider.
Yes.
And if not, Jay's going to make fun of me.
That's the plan.
All right. Bye, guys.
Adios.